Hello and welcome to Rajya Sabha TV. You're watching the news tonight, your daily roundup of all news that happened across India and the world. I'm Aishwarya Kapoor. Let us begin by taking a look at the headlines that we are tracking right now. Controversy over minister's alleged objectionable remarks triggers uproar in Parliament. Government refuses demands for Sadhvi Niranjan Jyoti's resignation. Opposition parties question excise duty hike on petrol and diesel, ask why government is not passing it on to consumer. India votes against a provision in UN General Assembly resolution that asks New Delhi to abandon nuclear weapons. And millions of cricket fans join Cricket Australia in bidding emotional farewell to Philip Hughes. Family holds funeral service in his hometown. Our top story, Union Minister Sadhvi Niranjan Jyoti's alleged objectionable remarks stalled Rajya Sabha proceedings for the second day in a row. The opposition refused to accept the apology she tendered yesterday and demanded that Prime Minister Narendra Modi sack her. The protest led to 6 adjournments before the House was finally adjourned till Thursday. Rather details.
The controversy over Sadhvi Niranjan Jyoti's remarks once again dominated Rajya Sabha on Wednesday. The Samajwadi Party reiterated its demand for passing resolution condemning her alleged hate speech. Parliamentary Affairs Minister N. Venkaiah Naidu rejected the demand, citing controversial remarks made in the past by other party leaders.
Who was a minister at the time, made a very serious and objectionable remark against the former Prime Minister Sri Atal Bihari Vajpayee.
As opposition leaders marched into the well, the chair adjourned the House for 10 minutes.
House is adjourned for 10 minutes.
When the House reassembled, a united opposition once again targeted the government. Members even sought the Prime Minister's clarification. The protest led to House being adjourned till noon.
कि ये जो इनके मंत्री ने कहा है वो कॉग्निजेबल अपराध तो है, नॉन कंपाउंडेबल भी है और 3 साल की कैद की उसमें सजा है.
She has violated this very constitution. How can somebody who has violated the constitution remain a minister after taking oath on that very constitution?
Rajya Sabha lost question hour yet again. As the appeal of the chairman to allow question hour to proceed went unheeded, the chair adjourned the House first for 15 minutes, then till 2 p.m.
House is adjourned till 2 p.m. You allow the minister, you listen to what minister has to say.
In the post-lunch session, the protest still didn't subside.
ये देश को विभाजित करने की बात है. डिप्टी चेयरमैन सर, मैं आपके माध्यम से डिप्टी चेयरमैन सर कहना चाहता हूं कि आज डिप्टी चेयरमैन स्तर पर ये डिबेट आई है. आज से पहले इतिहास में डिप्टी चेयरमैन डिबेट कभी नहीं हुई.
Union Minister Ravi Shankar Prasad tried in vain to mollify the members. As the stalemate continued, the House was first adjourned for 30 minutes and then till Thursday. Kriti Mishra, Rajya Sabha TV.
House is adjourned to meet tomorrow, Thursday, 4th December at 11 a.m.
And a united opposition put the government on the mat in the Lok Sabha as well over the controversial remarks by Union Minister Sadhvi Niranjan Jyoti. Party leaders also demanded a statement from Prime Minister Narendra Modi, who was present in the House.
Lok Sabha started on Wednesday with the opposition persisting with their demand for the resignation of Sadhvi Niranjan Jyoti for her controversial remarks. With Prime Minister Narendra Modi present in the House after his week-long tours, opposition members vociferously pressed for a statement from him.
विषय प्रस्ताव करना चाहता हूं क्योंकि प्रधानमंत्री जी यहाँ उपस्थित है. जो हादसा यानी कल एक मिनिस्टर ने ऐसा बयान दिया था जिसके ऊपर चर्चा भी हो गई थी, उन्होंने अपना अपराध मान लिया. जब उन्होंने अपना अपराध मान लिया है तो प्राइम मिनिस्टर को अपने मंत्री पद से निकाल देना चाहिए.
पर चर्चा भी हो चुकी है.
The opposition parties demanded the union minister's resignation and an FIR against her. Speaker Sumitra Mahajan appealed to let question hour function, but to no avail. she finally had to adjourn the House for a short while.
The House stands adjourned up to 11:45.
When the House convened, the Speaker said the minister had already tendered an apology and the opposition can now take up the matter in 0 hour. But the government refused to budge. Refusing to accept the opposition's demand, Parliamentary Affairs Minister M. Venkaiah Naidu said the matter had ended as she had apologized and the Prime Minister disapproved of her comments.
पार्लियामेंट्री अफेयर्स ने भी कहा करके सब बात हो चुकी है, माफी मंगवा चुके हैं। ऐसी बातें ऐसे आगे नहीं, ये सदन के बाहर की बात है, फिर भी सदन में माफी मांग चुके हैं। मेरा आपसे रिक्वेस्ट है, ये बात अब यही रहने दो। कल माफी हो चुकी है, आज फिर आपने अपना विरोध प्रधानमंत्री जी के सामने बता दिया है। वो जो करना वो देख लेंगे। नो, आई एम सॉरी, प्लीज अब हाउस को चलने दो, ये मेरा निवेदन है।
कल इस विषय उठाया, तुरंत मैडम आपने संकेत दिए तो मैं जाके मंत्री से बात किया। मंत्री भी खुद रियलाइज कर रहे थे, वो पहली बार आया, गांव का इलाका का महिला है और इसलिए फिर भी उन्होंने आके कहा ये ऐसा नहीं कहना था, गलती हो गया, मैं इसको स्वीकार कर रहा हूं और माफी याचना कर रहा हूं, ऐसा कह दिया। विषय समाप्त हो गया, सदन आगे चला। अभी आज अचानक क्या हुआ मुझे समझ में नहीं आ रहा।
But the opposition didn't relent. Members from the Congress, the TMC and the RSP staged a walkout, questioning how a minister who uses abusive language was allowed to remain in the ministry. Shyam Sundar and Pranav Goswami's report for Rajya Sabha TV.
There is no evidence that the money in the Sarda Chit Fund scam was used for terrorist activities. The government informed the Lok Sabha of this in a written reply. The BJP President Amit Shah had recently said in a rally in Kolkata that the money was used to fund militant groups in Bangladesh.
The Ministry of Personnel, Public Grievances and Pensions has informed the Lok Sabha that there is no evidence to prove that money from the Sharda Chit Fund scam was routed to Bangladesh. In a written reply, Minister Jitendra Singh also said that there was no evidence, in fact, that the money was used to fund terror activities at all. Following the statement, the Trinamool Congress has demanded that the BJP apologize for Amit Shah's remark.
मैं आशा करता हूं इन लोग माफी मांगेंगे ये बयान की पर। तो हम लोग पहले से बोलते थे कि ये विषय झूठ है, ये विषय पर कोई सच बात इन्होंने कभी नहीं उठाता।
In response, the BJP said that TMC was deeply involved in the Sharda scam. The party claims its reply in the House is based on mere technicalities and in the end, all of the party's accusations will come to be true.
निश्चित रूप से अगर जांच चल रही है तो सच्चाई तो आनी है सामने, तो सच्चाई आएगी। शारदा का घोटाला हुआ, शारदा का घोटाले में बंगाल का गरीब लूट गया।
In its bid to make a foothold in West Bengal, the BJP has been targeting the TMC over the Sharda scam. In such a scenario, the TMC has got a chance to hit right back. Shyam Sundar's report for Rajya Sabha TV.
And in other news, External Affairs Minister Sushma Swaraj today made a suo motu statement in the Lok Sabha on the Prime Minister's recent foreign visits. She told the House that in the past 6 months, Prime Minister Narendra Modi met no less than 45 international leaders from every inhabited continent of the world. She said Prime Minister Narendra Modi generated unprecedented optimism in the world about India. She also listed agreements signed with nations like the United States, Australia and Japan to boost trade relations during the Prime Minister's visit.
विदेशों में प्रधानमंत्री जी ने राष्ट्र हित के बिंदुओं पर भी जोर दिया, जैसे दक्षता के विकास में सहयोग को आगे बढ़ाना, बीमारियों से लड़ने के लिए उन्नत चिकित्सीय अनुसंधान में सहयोग करना, जैसे मलेरिया और टीबी के अनुसंधान में संयुक्त राज्य अमेरिका के साथ समझौता करना, जैसे खाद्य सुरक्षा जैसे हमारे किसानों के फायदे के लिए ऑस्ट्रेलिया के साथ कृषि अनुसंधान में सहयोग करना, जैसे शिक्षा जैसे अगले दौर के भारतीय प्रौद्योगिकी संस्थान स्थापित करने के लिए संयुक्त राज्य अमेरिका के साथ सहयोग पर समझौता करना और भारत में पढ़ाने के लिए 1000 उच्च अमेरिकी प्राध्यापकों को भारत लाने की योजना बनाना।
And a day after the government raised the excise duty on petrol and diesel, Petroleum Minister Dharmendra Pradhan today said that the move was meant to shore up the government's revenues. He asserted that the proceeds were important to contain the budget deficit. The government's decision prompted instant criticism from the opposition parties.
Oil Minister Dharmendra Pradhan defended the hike in excise duty on petrol and diesel, stating the measure will mobilize resources without burdening the consumer.
6 रुपया से ज़्यादा डीजल की दाम
घटाने की उनको मौका मिला। थोड़ा बहुत पैसा गरीबों की कल्याणकारी योजना के लिए हमने सरकार की तिजोरी में भी लाया।
Outside Parliament, the TMC MPs protested with banners and slogans against the excise hike.
Stop playing games, pass this huge price cut in the international crude prices, pass it on to the consumer.
The Congress and the JDU also cornered the government on the issue.
$115 से घट के जो है $64 पे भारत की सरकार खरीद रही है। इतना बड़ा जो है लाभ मिल रहा है, लेकिन उस हिसाब से पेट्रोल की कीमत 40 रुपए लीटर होनी चाहिए आज।
जो कंज्यूमर है उसको कोई राहत नहीं दी। हम सरकार की इस गलत नीति की आलोचना करते हैं।
Yesterday, the government raised the excise duty on petrol by ₹2.25 per litre and by ₹1 a litre on diesel. But retail pump rates won't be increased as all firms decided to absorb the duty change for the moment. The hike would add 4,000 crore to the government's coffers. At around $40 a barrel, world crude prices are at all-time low at present. If not now, the question is, can the consumer look forward to any benefits when they eventually rise? Kriti Mishra, Rajya Sabha TV.
Finance Minister Arun Jaitley today extended congratulations to the people of Jammu and Kashmir for turning out in high numbers to cast their vote. He was on a day-longer visit to Srinagar for a so-called intellectual meet, setting the tone for campaigning for the third phase of the ongoing assembly elections.
पूरी दुनिया को जम्मू कश्मीर की जनता एक मैसेज और संदेश दे रही है कि अपने भविष्य का फैसला, अपनी तकदीर का फैसला वो अब खुद अपनी वोट के माध्यम से करने वाले हैं।
Finance Minister Jaitley looking to reach out to engineers, advocates and businessmen in Jammu and Kashmir capital Srinagar as the state heads into the third of the 5 state elections on the 9th of December. In his praise for Kashmiris coming out in large number to cast their ballot, Jaitley had a strong message for anti-national elements in the state.
इस देश में रहने वाले हर व्यक्ति को यह तो स्वीकार करना पड़ेगा कि जम्मू कश्मीर इस देश का एक अटूट हिस्सा है और खास तौर से हमारे पड़ोसी मुल्क को भी ये समझना पड़ेगा कि किसी भी तरीके का वो इस्तेमाल करें, इस देश के किसी हिस्से को वो हासिल कर नहीं सकते।
The finance minister also lashed out at troublemakers and anti-democratic forces operating in the state, stressing that they had failed in bringing about the desired change.
1/6 जनसंख्या जहां रहती है, 1/6 पॉपुलेशन पूरी दुनिया की हिंदुस्तान में, जिसकी इकोनॉमी बढ़ती जा रही है, आर्थिक ताकत बढ़ती जा रही है, जिसकी मिलिट्री ताकत भी है, उस देश में हिंसा, टेररिज्म और इंसर्जेंसी के माध्यम से कोई बदलाव नहीं लाया जा सकता।
Prime Minister Narendra Modi is to address a rally in Srinagar on the 8th of December, a day ahead of polling in the third phase. 16 assembly segments go to polls in this phase. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
All right, we'll take a very short break here. Coming up ahead, new CBI Director Anil Sinha takes charge. That and much more after a short break. Welcome back after the break. Let's move on in the bulletin now. Inaugurating the second India-Japan Joint Working Group meeting on ICT, Telecom Minister Ravi Shankar Prasad stated that the two countries have enormous scope to work together. He said that the two sides must cement the cooperation process in the fields of electronics, manufacturing and ICT services.
Inviting Japan to take part in the Make in India initiative, Telecom Minister Ravi Shankar Prasad said the two nations are natural partners in the field of information and communications technology.
Japanese companies come, make in India, get all the benefits which the Indian company get, and also export outside.
Prasad also said the two countries can use the other's prowess in ICT to jointly work in areas like green technologies and cybersecurity. He also assured Japanese companies of getting the same export benefits as Indian companies.
There is immense scope for Japanese companies to come to India in a big way.
India provides 100% foreign direct investment in the field of ICT, which is perceived as an important criteria for countries investing in India.
Based on such trend at high-level activities between Japan and India, I'd like to aim at agreement for joint projects such as Green ICT project, cybersecurity collaborative project, and such.
Japan also acknowledged that the economic cooperation between the two countries is on the verge of a turning point, and the opportunities are abundant. Akhilesh Suman's report for Rajya Sabha TV.
And news from Uttar Pradesh. Well, Congress Vice President Rahul Gandhi visited Jagdishpur, the village that he has adopted in his constituency, Amethi. He was there today to launch a model village scheme. But surprisingly, the Congress Vice President was critical of the same scheme that he had come to launch. He said that it was pointless to pick just one village, as it was important to empower each village of the country. He also reminded the people that UPA schemes had always been inclusive, meant to empower all citizens.
दो बातें मुझे समझ नहीं आ रही। एक कि मेरा काम सबके विकास का है, सिर्फ एक गांव के विकास का नहीं है, और दूसरा जो स्कीम चालू की है उसके लिए कोई पैसा भी नहीं दिया है। तो पहली बार मैंने सुना है एक स्कीम लागू किया गया है जिसके लिए कोई फंडिंग नहीं दी गई। तो ये मुझे थोड़ी क्लैरिटी बात समझ नहीं आ रही।
In other news, Anil Kumar Sinha took over as the new CBI director. His appointment was made by a three-member committee of Prime Minister Narendra Modi, Mallikarjun Kharge, the leader of the single largest opposition party in the Lok Sabha, and Chief Justice H.L. Dattu. Sinha was the second in command in the CBI after Ranjit Sinha, who retired on 2nd of December. Sinha was a special director for the past 21 months, and he supervised the Sarada Chit Fund probe. He's the third chief of the agency from Bihar after Ranjit Sinha and A.P. Singh.
My endeavor would be to work with my team to strengthen the cause of justice and reiterate our commitment to the motto of our organization, that's industry, impartiality and integrity.
And India, along with the United States and Pakistan, voted against a provision in the UNGA resolution on nuclear weapons. The resolution called on Pakistan, India and Israel to voluntarily drop their nuclear weapons without conditions and place all its nuclear facilities under IAEA safeguards. The draft resolution was later adopted by a record vote of 169 in favour, 7 voted against, with 5 abstentions, including Bhutan and China. India was the sole country to vote against a draft resolution on conventional arms control at the regional and sub-regional levels. And with the 2014 on track to become the warmest year on record, high-level talks have begun in the Peruvian capital of Lima to broker a deal on increasing greenhouse gas emissions and keeping global warming at bay. Ministerial-level talks are set to begin next week. India today stressed on the need for a balanced inclusion of adaptation efforts at this summit, which will be a precursor to the 2015 Paris Agreement. The goal is to make a draft treaty on climate change which can be finalized in Paris. The World Meteorological Organization launched the provisional statement in Lima on Wednesday. UN member states have vowed to limit the global warming to 2 degrees Celsius over pre-industrial revolution levels.
The group wishes to express its full support towards helping the co-chairs secure a successful outcome to these negotiations. In this regard, the group believes that the most promising way forward lies in ensuring that the 2015 agreement treats the elements of mitigation, adaptation, finance, technology development and transfer, capacity building and transparency of actions and support.
And here is more international news and updates in our special segment, Global Buzz. The 3 founder members of Hong Kong's Occupy Central movement turned themselves into police over their role in pro-democracy demonstrations. They were turned away without being arrested or charged. The leaders said it was a message that they were ready to respect the rule of law. However, this is likely to have little influence on student protesters who still occupy 2 protest sites. US President Barack Obama has asked Congress for a $6.2 billion to fight the deadly Ebola outbreak in West Africa. During a visit to the National Institutes of Health, Obama called on Congress to pass an emergency budget to fight the deadly virus. Over 6,000 people have died of Ebola in West Africa. Obama called the need to control the disease an urgent priority. Egyptian President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi has said his office is drafting a law to criminalize insulting the uprisings that toppled President Hosni Mubarak in 2011 and his Islamist successor Mohamed Morsi last year. This comes even as more than 180 supporters of the banned Muslim Brotherhood were sentenced to death over a 2013 attack on a police station near Cairo. The sentences are subject to the opinion of Egypt's top religious authority, the Grand Mufti. The United States says its coalition has inflicted serious damage on the Islamic State, but the fight against militants could last years. U.S. Secretary of State John Kerry said close to 1,000 airstrikes have been carried out so far in Iraq and Syria, and the coalition would remain engaged for as long as it takes. The airstrikes had started in the summer of this year. 11 more bodies have been recovered from the West Bering Sea near where the South Korean fishing ship sank earlier this week. Sarjo Industries, which owns the ship, said that the bodies appear to be from the ship lost on Monday in the waters near Russia. On Monday, one fisherman's body was recovered and 7 were rescued. More than 50 are still missing. All right, we'll take another very short break. Coming up ahead, Phil Hughes laid to rest. Welcome back. Well, cricketer Philip Hughes was laid to rest in his hometown of Maxwell today. Thousands attended the service as they remembered the champion cricketer who never forgot his roots. Australia's Prime Minister Tony Abbott, many cricket greats, the current Australian team and the visiting Indian team were among those who paid rich tributes. May his soul rest in peace.
I don't know about you, but I keep looking for him. I know it's crazy, but I expect any minute to take a call from him or to see his face pop around the corner. Is this what we call the spirit? If so, then his spirit is still with me, and I hope it never leaves. I walked to the middle of the SCG on Thursday night. Those same blades of grass beneath my feet, where he and I and so many of his mates here today have built partnerships, taken chances and lived out the dreams we painted in our heads as boys.
Australian captain Michael Clarke bids an emotional farewell to the young man he referred to as his little brother, Philip Joel Hughes.
Are you smarter than the rest of the team?
I'm probably the dumbest.
The entire Australian team was in attendance, so was the visiting Indian team. Australia's Prime Minister Tony Abbott came. Everyone spoke about how it was time to celebrate a life which, though short, was well lived.
We gathered to celebrate his 26 years of life. That's what we're doing here this afternoon. To those both near and far whom his life has touched, and we pray this afternoon that today we will feel some consolation as we celebrate his life.
Stories about how Philip fell in love with the game were narrated. Facts about his short, well-lived life were told. And it was clear that at 26 years old, he was an inspiration to all those whose lives he touched.
All I ever wanted was for you to look up to me as your big brother. I still can't believe that I'm here saying my final goodbyes. Even though you are my little bro, you have taught me so much. You have given me confidence, strength. You supported me and gave me a strong desire to succeed.
We must dig in We must dig in and get through to tea. And we must play on. So rest in peace, my little brother. I'll see you out in the middle.
Some 1,000 mourners, mostly locals, dabbed away tears and perspiration in the baking heat of the school hall as thousands more watched on screens in the sunshine outside. Australian cricket greats such as Shane Warne, Ricky Ponting and the Waugh brothers were in attendance, while Richard Hadlee and Indian captain Virat Kohli represented the wider world. The service was also beamed to many stadia across the country. As everyone mourned the death of a prolific batsman, the everyday Australian remembered him as just one of them, a small-town kid playing the national sport they know and love.
Well, may his soul rest in peace. Thanks so much for watching. Good night.